Right then, hi guys, welcome to obviously another video in the channel. Now this one is going to be about EDC16U1, which is found in cars such as the VW Golf Mark 5, the BKD engine. It's in a couple of transporters. It's in, the majority of the 2-litre Golfs of that era, or the 2-litre engines of that era. Anything with a BKD basically. So have a quick look. So this is what we call an ECU read. So there's different tools out there that do different jobs when it comes to tuning. The first tool would be to read the contents of the ECU. Now this is done, all this information is kept on the chip inside the ECU, which is obviously where chip tuning come from. We used to have to remove the chips, read the chips, do a bit of fettling with the software, load it back on again, car makes more power. Now it makes more power by raising requests and such forth in obviously the software of the ECU. So in the ECU, it's all split into separate tables and single bytes, limiters, and so on and such forth. Now the ECU itself uses the sensors on the engine, whether it be the MAF sensor, the MAP sensor, the coolant sensor, the cam sensor, the crank sensor, all these different sensors the ECU is using to create a power based on, for the engine to run and to create power based on what's in this ECU compared to what the ECU is seeing. So in any tune, it always starts with the driver really. So the driver sat in the seat controls the pedal, which controls what the ECU is going to do next. So as you press the pedal, the ECU obviously knows that you want, you're pressing the pedal, it's going to need more air, more fuel, and such forth. And this is the very first part of the table. So you've pressed the pedal. Now the ECU is now seen that you've pressed the pedal, and it drops into different maps depending on what gear, what type of car you have. There's different maps for each gear. There's different maps for all-wheel drive, and then there's obviously the single gears with a two-wheel drive cars. I don't think I've ever seen an all-wheel drive BKD, but it's here. It's got a map for it if it is on. Obviously, if you haven't got an all-wheel drive, then the ECU wouldn't even use this map, so there's not really much point in adjusting it. So I normally go straight to first, don't really need. Second, yeah. Third, yeah. As you go into the gears, you're obviously going to need the power. So first and second don't really need, too fast. Third, fourth, fifth, for a general stage 1 tune you'd probably start touching. But anyway, so how the ECU works is you touch the pedal. So the ECU looks at this axis depending on where the pedal is. So down driver to pedal to ECU. ECU then sees where that pedal is. So if your pedal isn't correctly calibrated, so the 0 and 100% isn't matching what the ECU thinks the 0 to 100% is, then that's one reason why you might not get power, because the ECU is only going to give you what it can see based on what it gets from the sensors. So you've got the RPM, which is governed by the ECU. It knows by everything, all the sensors on the engine, cam, crank, and such forth. So you've got your RPM. So depending on what RPM point and what pedal position, is going to be what Newton meters request it's going to give you. So this is a torque request table, and it's the start of the whole period. So this is where it all starts from. So this is your torque request table for different gears. So your tuner would normally, should look through the rest of the map and then come back to these maps depending on, what it's doing. I mean, me personally, I like to log the car first, so I plug VACOM in. I give the car a run up on the dyno or run down the street in 3rd or 4th gear and just see what map is limiting, because you can log these maps. You can see that where the actual driver's wish torque is. You can see where the torque tables are and such forth. So you kind of get a picture of what the ECU is doing. So you can create free power without touching many of the maps, which is what stage 1 tuned is all about. It's not about pushing the car, it's about releasing that power that obviously the manufacturer's not let you have and making the most of the setup, especially with these BKDs because they are known for turbo failure. So you don't really want to be pushing these anyway. But anyway, we'll carry on. So first of all, we've got these tables. So I'll take anywhere between 1500 and say 3000. You can kind of see the torque band. So 440, 430, 423. It's tapering off. It ramps, which you're not going to see because you don't go straight from 1% to 100%. You kind of go through the tables. So you might kind of come down like this, and then hit these, and then come down. So first of all, we've got the driver's wish. Then, as you can see, that the ECU is full of different maps for different things. Now, making power, we don't need to look at all these different maps for different things. We just need to go look at the maps required for us to make the power that we want to make. There's no point in getting over the top and creating parts of the tune that you're not going to need. So, I know that these three little lumps here, by experience, is the torque table. This is the torque limit. Again, you can log this table. It's in VCDS on the block. It's number 8 in any VCDS of the older diesels. And what you have here, you've got atmospheric pressure. So this is how the manufacturer governed the different power levels based on where you are in the world. So your different atmospheric pressures. Now this one looks, apart from the top end, is pretty much the same. It starts to taper to change around 3000 RPM. There's a little bit of a difference. Not really one you majorly see, but they obviously don't want the car to do much when it hasn't got the air to suck in at top end. So that's obviously something, food for thought. Now in the UK we're 850 and up. So even though we don't have a 900 or 1000, it'll use anything above this table. So if we look in here now, if you remember from the driver's wish table, you were seeing like 440 tapered down to about 380. Right, in this table, we're only seeing 360. So peak power band in the UK, I'll sit across this line here. There's no point me tuning the other tables, I ain't going to see them. So straight across this line here, I've got 360 Newton meters from 2000 RPM, well, say 1900 RPM to what, 2500, and it starts to taper off. So your power band is pretty much there. That is pretty much your power band. You could argue you can start from 1750, depends if you can hit these numbers. So that is pretty much your power band. Now we're down to 360 Newton meters. So this is where your free power comes from. Because if you log this car, you'll see that your driver's wish should be 440, 430, doing taper off. But your actual, well, your torque request would be down to 360, 360, 360. So this would be the lowest of the two tables. So this would be the table the ECU uses, because the ECU always uses the lowest of the tables. So now we're down to 360 Newton meters. So if I start writing this down, if I get my notepad out and I say, right, driver's wish, 440 Newton meters, torque table, I'm down to 360 Newton meters. And then we can kind of start building a picture. If you're not logging, if you're doing this, before you're really touching the car, taking the car out, or if you just want to get an idea, so when you take the car out, you can make sure that you're hitting what the car is requesting you to touch. Because if you're not, then that's when you start looking into the sensors and see what the sensors are saying, because the sensors are telling the ECU what to do. Okay, so now we're at 360 Newton meters. Have a flick through, see what else we've got. Got a couple of fuel tables. Got a smoke table based on boost. We'll come back to that. We've got a Newton meter request or conversion table. So this is your conversion table for your Newton meters. So what this basically means is that you've got a torque, you've got your torque figures, which become the axis of this table. So you'll find a lot of tables will be interlinked by the axes, which is what's going on here. So you've got RPM, you've got Newton meter request, and in the middle you've got fuel. So this is where it changes from Newton meters to milligrams per stroke. Okay, so we was at say 360 Newton meters. So we're pretty much in between these two here because it's not very well done, to be fair. So we're pretty much in between these two. So we would in the ECU would pretty much interpolate like this and chuck out a number in the middle. So even though you're not quite seeing the numbers in this table, it's because the table isn't that well defined compared to what is actually going on, which is a bit crap. But we can always change that. We can change that to change that to 360 if you want, change that to whatever number you like, as long as you can do the calculations, which you can work out based on what 50 milligram is to 325 newton meters. You can divide it, figure out how many milligrams are in 1 newton meter, and such forth. But this is what it comes down for the tuner. This is where the tuners come in and start doing their thing. So next, what we do next is obviously look at what air. So now we know what fuel's going in. In fact, let's write that down. See where we are with that. So let's look at this table. So at 360 newton meters between these two, so probably say about 60 milligrams, halfway between the two. So newton meter conversion table. We're at about 60 milligrams. So 60 milligrams of fuel. Okay, cool. So let's go back through. Let's try and find that. Oh, I've gone past it. No, something else. Like the N74. Here we go. So here is the boost tables. So this one, you've got your boost request, you've got your boost limit, and here somewhere will be your single value boost limit. So let's look on these tables. So on these tables, we've got milligrams. So this is again where the axes is coming from different tables. You've got RPM, and in the middle we've got millibar. Now, what we see here, we're not seeing obviously 2.3 bar, we're seeing 1.3 bar, or we're seeing, depending on where you are in the world, you might be seeing 1.5 bar if you're 800 millibars. If you're less than that, then again that's going to add. So you always got to keep that in mind. That the turbo is always making up for the inefficiency of the engine. Basically, the turbo, that's what the turbo is there for. Your engine can't fill any more than 100% of its own air, so it forces more air in to create a higher VE, which is pretty much what a turbo does. So we're at 60 milligrams, so we're already maxing out this table. So when we take this down the road, you should see that you're at 1.35 bar. Tapering off, you should be seeing this table. If you're not seeing this table, then we know straight away you've got a problem. If you're going over this table and seeing overboost, that's why. If you're getting limp mode in overboost, it's because your car ECU is trying to manage 1.3 bar or 1.35 bar, but it's going over that and there's nothing it can do about it, which is where things like block vanes and things like that come in. If you're going over this table, if you picture in your head, it's like I think it's 200 millibar over boundary on these. So if you're going 200 millibar over this for a certain point in time, your car will drop into limp mode. If you're going 200 millibar under this, then your car will drop in limp mode, and you'll have two different. You'll have overboost and you'll have underboost. So that's how the boost tables work on these ECUs. So now boost wise, we're at 1.35 bar at 50 milligram. So I'm starting to build a picture now of what's going on with this car. I know what this car should be doing out on the road. So peak levels, yeah, it's pretty much on the level. And because it's running so close to the actual physical boost, you can kind of tell that you're pretty much on the limit of these turbos. They don't take a lot of boost. There's not really much you can get out of them. So always be careful with these turbos because they will implode. They're crap. And your single value boost is actually at 1.62 bar. So your very max boost is 1.62 bar, which is your single value boost limit. minus obviously your atmospheric pressure depending on where you are in the world. So that would be a how to basic do a tune. So that's just a basic tune. If I was to tune these cars, you obviously look at what you've got. So here's what you've got. You then take the car down the road, you give it a log, you make sure you're hitting these numbers. If you're hitting these numbers, then straight away you can add more fuel because you're sitting quite low. So why not? You add 405 newton meters on a conversion table, so just set that to 405 newton meters to make more power. Basically, the only thing you've got to watch is the boost. Obviously, more air, more fuel, it's going to create a thicker mass, which is going to create more boost. So you're going to jump straight up to 66 milligram from about 55 to 60. So you're going to make a good 10% power just by changing that to 405. Just by changing your torque tables to 405 newton meters. So if I was to come in here now, as a quick basic run over, so I want to do 405 newton meters. So I'd say okay, anything less than 405, I'm going to make up to 405. Obviously not the all-wheel drive map. Let's get rid of that. So into this table, change it around. I can say just above. Again, it's going to use the lowest. As long as I'm above in this table, we're good to go. So I'm just going to set all these to 414. This one's already switched. So this will release obviously the free power that we want. So set them higher than what we want. Obviously that if you loaded that to the car now, it won't make any difference because your lowest is still the lowest. So obviously the next table we're going to have to find is the torque table, which is here. So then we set this one to where we want to go in the peak. So anywhere here, say, just to start with, I'd say 405. Have a nice run up. Have a nice run down. So I'm going to now sit across this table in my power band. Not for the whole time, just in the power band. Because if I keep it for the whole time, I could end up sparking a bit of 2.2 bar 60. So I've got plenty on there still. So I'm obviously going to be running about 60 milligrams. So the smoke table is okay for now. And then the boost wise, I'll just leave it as it is. Now what I'd do now is I'd load it onto the car, just with these couple of changes. I'd load it onto the car, I'd log it, I'd see what power difference I make if it's on the dyno, and then I'd start working from there basically, because this is custom tuning. When people go on about custom tuning isn't just getting it, loading it onto a map. Just because you've picked up a map from a car or whatever else, or you've got one for it or whatever, that's not custom tuning. Okay, so when someone just comes out to your car and just knocks a file onto it, that isn't custom tuning. Just because they're using the file from your car to build a tune or whatever else, whatever they call it, that is by no way custom tuning. You can't custom tune a car in any less than what, 3-4 hours, depending on the complexity. Some cars even longer than that. The majority of us spend a lot of time learning all this before we even touch a car. Then we start playing with the car and seeing what power it can make. Then we create a base file based on the feedback we've got for that car. Then we get the next car, we start from that base file, we tune from there, and you get to a point where you can quickly go for a file, set it up to what you know is going to make to open up that little bit of free power, and then you can tweak it from there. That's custom tuning. But not every car gets done from scratch, because why would you? It's it's all about the experience, really. That's what it all comes down to. So next time you get your car tuned or anything else, just sit and watch. Are they going through the tables? Are they doing all this? Is it actually classed as a custom tune? Because there's a big difference in the market, a massive difference in the market, and you see tunes anywhere from £80 all the way up to £500, some even more than that for tuning sessions. But you're getting any different? What are you getting back? What are you paying for? And this is where it comes. This is where the experience comes. We get people all the time like, what power do you think you're going to get from a car? Don't know. If it's a brand spanking new car that's done 1,000 miles, you can pretty much peg it down to within a couple of HP. If you've got a car that's done 100,000 miles and it's you don't know the service history or what have you, then the chances are it was not even going to run the power that you think it's going to run in the first place. So for us to then tell you what it's going to run after that is, you're pissing in the wind, really. So this is tuning. This is what tuning is about. This is what my channel is about, is opening your eyes a little bit to what tuning actually is and helping people to tune their own cars as well. So this is the very first video in EDC16EU1. I'm going to go into more detail. If you obviously want to take the next step and learn even more, then my website's in the link. You can go on there, you can purchase the video, where you can purchase the tuning course based on this ECU and learn how to tune it yourself and other ECUs too. So obviously, if you like the video, like and subscribe. The next video should be live on doing a T6 van on the dyno, showing you the power to make out there from my previous video. So it's all good fun. You're gonna have plenty of cars on the dyno and going through it and showing you all the problems and the issues and all the things we do with your ECUs and cars and things like that, to give you more of an understanding about what you're buying and just put value back in the market. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.